We have applied behavior analysis, which is what you've been hearing me talk about. It was first known, or not known, but first really understood and talked about by Skinner, which goes way back in time. And he wrote his book on verbal behavior. And then we had Bear, Wolf, and Risley come out with their applied behavior analysis after a lot of research had been done from there. And then we had Lovaas, who then took it to apply to children with autism on the autism spectrum. Since Lovaas, we have had the hugest, widest variety of research, and so there's just a ton of research out there. But these are kind of the people that were the pioneers and kind of the path that it took to get to using it with children with autism spectrum disorder. Like I said last night, if you were there, I continue to mention Lovaas because of the oftentimes a bad connotation that's associated with his name, because he was the first person doing that extensive amount of research with kids on the spectrum. Of course, he made mistakes, and we learned from his mistakes. And towards the end, he was learning from his mistakes, which was really nice to see him talking about. But it was some of those kids that we saw in the very beginning that were the rote-only responding. People were calling them robots because at that time we were unaware of the huge deficits in generalization that our kids have on the spectrum. And we didn't know that until this intervention and stuff was used with those kids, and we figured that out. But you have to make progress in research and implement interventions in order to find that out. So that is something that I always try to help people understand. It's one of the most valuable 20 years of research that we have that still supports ABA. And we all make mistakes, but because of that research, we have very valuable research today. So implementing the principles of behavior. You're using it in a very systematic manner to make change, to be able to analyze the change, and to see change over time. It's very gradual. It's nothing that you would ever say about ABA is quick fix. That does not happen. It's very long and rigorous and difficult, labor intensive. But the thing about it, because it's data-based, it does lend itself to being able to prove that it is due to this intervention that the improvements you are seeing are happening. And that's the biggest thing with data, right, is that you can prove that what you're doing is working or not working. And over time, when you continue to do it with many people and many individuals, different people, and you get similar results, then you can see if something's effective. The biggest thing about it is the proactive antecedent intervention aspect of it. That we come in and we try to change things before the behavior happens because of what I was talking about last night with the neurons that are developing in our brain. If we can change what's happening before those electrical impulses start and develop the wrong path for the behaviors that we don't want, if we can change that from happening, then we're going to get a lot improvements in behavior without even having to have the inappropriate behavior to deal with. Okay? So then you have also a very ongoing comprehensive analysis. So you really have to look at everything in the child's environment. You have to look at what we call the setting event. What is that environment that the child's in that is triggering that antecedent to cause a behavior, and then what is the consequence that's happening after that behavior that is maintaining or decreasing the behavior. So that's what they're looking at. There is over 40 years of research based specific to ASD. Now if you go all the way back and you're looking at behavior analysis period, it goes on and on with the research that they had. But when we're looking at children on the autism spectrum, it goes 40 years. The thing about that's very interesting is the very broad range of looking at things all the way down to doing research with very, very specific skills. It's amazing now, some of the things, I'm just like, oh my word, you know, the things that they can do research on about. They're getting really specific now about sleeping, about eating, about toileting. These are all things that way back we would have never thought we were going to ever get to the point where we could research that specifically. But because we have done so well with researching the broad aspect of skill improvement with ABA, we can narrow it down to now, how do we really address these things that are so difficult with our kids? We know we can make skill improvement, but when it comes to toileting, when it comes to eating, when it comes to sleeping, these things are just driving us crazy. And so we need to do more research.